So segment 1, relationships, how childhood trauma impacts adult relationships. I think that well, as we go through our own journey and our journey together, we have watched a lot of documentaries, read a lot of things, and listened to a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, and a lot of holistic stuff. We are super into the holistic things. Like, I don't see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Um, I think it's necessary, especially today, because everybody's gone cuckoo or is depressed or anxiety and stuff. So I think in our society today, it's definitely necessary, but it's just because we do things at home and because we're working more on, like, I don't know, basically what today is about, like your childhood trauma. And apparently it's not only your childhood trauma that are impacting you, it's your ancestors' trauma. So I think trauma gets passed within your DNA, and that's science. That's not like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's actual science. It's stored in your DNA for I don't remember how many generations. So sometimes you may have issues in your life today and you think it's your burden, but it was one of your ancestors' burden and it's just been passed on to you. That's why it's very important for you during your time on this planet um, to do the work on yourself so that you're not passing on any trauma to the next generation.
We gave a little example, I guess, according to Cappy. Like you may have, like your parents might be together and happy and everything, but in their childhood, they may have had a trauma with their mother, their father, I guess your grandparents, whether they broke up or they died or something traumatic on their end that somehow that is being stored and passed along in your DNA when you were birthed as a child. And, you don't have that trauma per se in your life. Maybe you're happy, you don't have any issues, no deaths, no molestation, whatever, but something else is stored in your DNA that is trapped inside of you because of your parents, essentially.
Yeah, so you have to clean that out. And apparently I didn't know that. I wish I had known that before I had a child, but I had my son young anyway, so I don't think I would have known all that. Although he knows more than we did young because we tell him everything. We try to teach him everything we've learned. But you also passed on a lot of trauma um, through pregnancy, through that child's DNA. So whatever trauma you went through at that time or whatever stress you've gone through during your pregnancy is getting passed on to the child. So you really have to work on all this. And people don't see it, They think it's just Cocoa Puffs. It's like nothing. It doesn't mean anything. They don't need to work on themselves. This is just how I am. It's my personality. It's not your personality. It's just something you can actually work on, and you may have a blockage. And actually, sometimes they might tell you you may have like a shoulder pain or something. It might be like an energy of trauma that is stuck in that area of your body, which is why when you get a massage or you do yoga, you can sometimes release that. And it's just, the body is crazy, the mind, everything is crazy.
Then they say sometimes you have like a certain scar from something, it's something like a past life or something like that, Joe?
Yeah, we saw that. So I had in the documentary, I remember, no, it's the birthmark. They say that sometimes your birthmark in a past life, you may have been stabbed there or something. It may be a sign of how you died or something like that. So there's like so much that we don't realize and we really don't know. It's crazy. So for me, like even remember when we used to go to the chiropractor? We went to the chiropractor like as a family once, and he worked on it was he realigned you from the, what is that, vertebrae? So he adjusts your spine because sometimes if you look at the length of your leg, right, you might have like 1 inch off. That means your body is not straight. So he would adjust the spine and then straighten it out. And then the first time I went there, I realized I went to the bathroom after and I had bled because I just had my period. It was finished, but because of the alignment in me, and I felt it right away when he adjusted the spine, it shifted where my uterus is, and it just shifts you. So everything, if you're not aligned, basically we're like a system. And if something is out of whack, it's just gonna mess it up. And everything is like connected, like your weight. Like sometimes they tell you um that you might be obese. Like some girls, like an obese woman, she has a bad addiction with food, and you'll find out she may have been abused sexually, and then she put on all this weight because it's her armor. If she's fat and ugly, nobody's gonna want to touch her, and that's how she protects herself. So, like it affects your weight, it affects your mood, it affects your relationship, it affects your life in every way. So if you don't deal with your trauma, then you're just gonna have a crappy life, most likely. Or sometimes people may have perfect lives, like celebrities, you think they have a perfect life, but they have baggage, and then it shows up as drug addiction. Like it's going to show up in your life differently for everyone.
Yeah, definitely traumas need to be dealt with. There's so many different ways that I guess everything is individualized to you and your personal thing. It could be something like, you busted your ass as a freaking child and now you're scared of bikes or falling down in life. Like that might just be a trigger. Like you're always like falling from that one little thing you did as a child. You might not think that's something crazy, but for whatever reason, that's like you're always falling or you're dreaming about falling and you're not putting that connection back to that little moment as a child.
I wonder, because they tell you we're not born with fears. Our fears are learned. The only thing I think with fear, we like we know love, darkness, and light. And then I forgot what else. There's like only one other emotion we're born with. And then after that, everything we learned from our lives and our parents.
I think definitely your traumas you tend to develop after certain things because you may not have had a certain fear, but something simple just started becoming more scared of something, or maybe you had a bad experience at work, you got fired, and then ever since then you're like, oh, this guy gonna fire me again, and then you go into that job and thinking like, I'm just gonna last, or they're gonna hit me for this particular thing, and like you go through that cycle, or even let's say the trauma of in today's society, the whole black mentality thing. Oh, it's the DEI and uh, the white man, and I have no respect. I have no value because I'm white. I'm not, I mean, because I'm black. I'm not going to get the job. If you're going to the job thinking everything is a black thing, black and white thing, or they're going to be racist, you're going to put out the energy of being that outcome. You have to go into positive thinking, I'm great, I'm awesome, not having in the back of your mind that trauma of the whole white and black thing. You have to go into this being, I'm amazing, I'm good for this job, and put out that you're the right person.
I think Black people have a lot of ancestral trauma that needs to be worked on,
Yeah.
but not only as individual, as a like collective. Like,
I'm not saying, just to be clear, I'm not saying that stuff doesn't ever exist, but you can't always go into thing blaming, the white man because some other white guy somewhere on TV or somewhere else did something or 100 years ago. I mean, like, you can't go into life blaming things and not necessarily even having proven happened to you, but because society supposedly has this stigma, you can't build your future based on somebody else's past experiences or things that have maybe happened. You have to move forward and build positive foundation because you'll have that trauma built into you that is going to follow you forever until you really deal with it. That, you know what? I'm better than this and I can do things.
yeah. So, um, I guess let's see what we have for facts on that. Or actually, we'll just go with some examples. So, for example, if you have a fear of intimacy, um, you may have experience, sorry, early emotional neglect or abandonment, and you may avoid closeness, fearing rejection or feeling vulnerable. So I think it's kids who weren't held
Yeah.
much, or you may have be abandoned. You have a fear of intimacy. So, or like of getting too close to people. And I think in that case, you may possibly, probably, like also like leave people early or something. Like you break up with the person before they break up with you, so you don't feel like you're the one who was left. I think like when people do that, they have like probably something like that happen to them.
Yeah. Or people who have like their parents died early in life, they tend to have sometimes a fear of relationship that that person might go away or
Mm-hmm.
they die, have a trauma that, they believe that, they can't or deserve. They want to feel that pain again because of your mama. You don't or didn't get the love long enough for a certain reason or something.
Yeah. So that would create like attachment issues or trust issues. I forgot to start to give a disclaimer before we started this segment. We're not a psychologist. We're not psychologists or psychiatrists. This is just research and our own opinion. So if you need to seek help, go seek professional help. As I said earlier, there's value in that. And even like holistic help is like, professional help. But we're just giving opinions and research and stuff we've watched and experience because it's something we work on a lot. And I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more too on what we do. Um, so I guess when you have reactivity and conflict patterns, it may be unresolved trauma can be triggered emotional response to minor disagreement, difficulty trusting others, childhood betrayal, whether from caregiver or other trusted figures. So yeah, everything goes back to your childhood. Like you have a trust issue. I guess we covered that one already. Like an adult betrayed you, you weren't held enough. You look for, you look as a kid, you look at adults and your parents to take care of you. And if they don't do that, it's gonna cause so much issue as an adult.
Yeah, or like if you always fight with your mother or your father, you're always battling with them for various things because whether they didn't agree with you or didn't like you, those things tend to portray out on other people because you're gonna act out on them because that your foundation at home didn't teach you to have I guess, a level, calm, demeanor.
Or how to deal with your emotions.
Yeah, how to deal with your emotions, how to not act out because at home you just went crazy too. So that same thing pass along, and most likely you're gonna have that same issue with your partner, probably your child also because that's how you grew up. That's how you were raised, or your mother didn't hug you a lot, so then you don't hug your partner or your kids because that's how it was at home.
That's British people.
Yeah.
They don't show affection, apparently. Um, so a study from the journal Clinical Psychology found that individuals with history of childhood trauma were likely to adopt avoidance attachment style, leading to emotional distance in relationships. So that supports the same thing we're saying. Another research shows that childhood trauma survivors often exhibit heightened amygdala responses. That means their brains are more likely to perceive threats in interpersonal interactions, even when none exist. So yeah, it all like everything is from childhood, which is what in holistic ways we call it you need to heal your child. Your inner child. We heal our inner child. And once you can deal with your inner child and all your traumas, then your life would be so much easier. So early sexual abuse and long-term impacts. Study indicates that many adults who engage in sexual abusive behavior were themselves victim of child sexual abuse. A research found that approximately 40 to 50% of convicted male child molesters reported having been sexually abused as children. This cycle of trauma, often referred to as the abuse to abuser hypothesis, highlights how unaddressed trauma can lead to future problematic behavior. So, yeah, I always say that sometimes when I hear about molestation. First of all, I do believe the key should be thrown away, but then I also have another reaction where I know that most likely that person, even when it's a woman molester, that person went through something when they were younger and they're gonna react to it in two ways. They're gonna be an abuser themselves, or they're just gonna be like, I'm not gonna be that person that did this to me. But
Yeah.
most of the time, 40 to 50%. Um, so it's not most of, but a high number. Just
So it's still a lot.
just pick the cycle. And if you don't talk about it, if you're not believing your children, if you're not helping, we're not opening channels of communication, then the cycles is just going to keep going.
So we're clear this stats is also based on if they even get the answers to really put those stats together.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Not every person is going to be honest about it and just going to just, as you said, departmentalize it and put it away.
Especially a man
Yeah.
would be quicker
They're not
to
going to come
pretend
and
it didn't
say,
happen.
they're not going to say, oh, my daddy, raped me or whoever it is
Hmm.
too. But it's crazy the fact that, you know, molesters are people who were molested themselves. It's like you would think that you wouldn't want to do that, give that trauma to anybody else, but I guess they all think that it happened to me, it happened to you, or it somehow stimulates them that they liked it in another way that made it weird and you don't
No, I think
understand
it's
it.
just they don't know any better.
Yeah.
It's just what was done. It's just what happens. That's what I think happens. Um, Father absence and promiscuity in adolescent girls. So, research for that found that girls raised in homes without their biological fathers were twice as likely to engage in sexual activity and 3 times as likely to become pregnant before the age of 20. The absence of a father figure can lead to unmet emotional needs, which some young women may seek to fulfill through early and often risky sexual relationships. I guess we call that daddy issues. Basically, like guys may have mommy issues, girls may have daddy issues. That's basically what we would call it in the real world terminology.
So I guess some of those is where the young girls want the older guys or the really old guys to create that father figure for them. It's kind of weird. I guess that's where the whole daddy scenario
I
came
was
about.
gonna say the girls who call guys daddy in the bedroom too. That's daddy
That's crazy.
serious daddy issues. Boys without fathers and increased behavioral issues. So the U.S. Department of Justice reported that boys from fatherless homes accounted for 70% of juvenile detainees. Research consistently shows that boys raised without fathers are more likely to exhibit aggression, engage in delinquent behavior, and struggle with academic achievement. Without a stable male role model, many young men are greatly at risk of adopting antisocial behavior. That also touches on the episode we had on fathers in the home and how especially we'll do an episode on that at some point, how I was saying they destroyed the black family on purpose because without men in the home, yeah, you're just putting more people in jail. And for those who don't know, the jail industry is a private industry and it is very, very profitable. So I believe that's all by design. That is no coincidence. Emotional neglect and psychological disorders. A 2016 study published in the American Journal of Psychiatry found that individuals who experienced emotional neglect as children were significantly more likely to develop depression and anxiety disorder as adults. Emotional neglect, where caregivers fail to provide adequate emotional support or recognition, often leads to low self-esteem and difficulty forming healthy relationships. So, same thing, just from a study, if you weren't held enough, or maybe you did not have skin to skin. I don't know nothing about that, but apparently that's a thing. Skin to skin at birth and stuff like that. All that emotional, you feel like um separated. Domestic violence shows up later as aggression, and basically, then the point of all this is, yeah, like your childhood, what you see or what you experience in your childhood is going to create a cycle in your life. And unless you deal with that, then you're not going to make your life better. You're not going to have better relationships, which is what we said in one of the episodes. You have to work on yourself before you can even. People always think that it's someone else or you have to fix someone for things to get better, but you need to fix yourself and then things work better.
I guess the problem too is you have to realize that you have an actual trauma is the problem as well for a lot of people. Because they might think that they're fine, but it's just really pushed away trauma that's still somewhere there. Like we know a lot of people that have a lot of issues, baggage that they just haven't dealt with for whatever reason. Whether it's easy to deal with it or not, or you can't deal with it, but it's something that has to be figured out in some way with all the work that I guess maybe you might mention some stuff, some options you could do, even if it's at home, um, with your meditation and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can. I guess we're getting into that. Well, I guess that the next part is what you were saying. Basically, awareness is key, but I think people just ignore because it's easier.
It's easier.
It's hard to deal with your issues. You don't want to revisit it. It's painful. But what people don't realize is that that pain is still stored and it's going to show up in different areas of your life. And it's not going away until you make it go away. Like you have to um deal with it heads on. You know what I saw? And I never forget that video. It was like a reel or something on Instagram or some sort of social media. Um, when you ask God for more, like you want it to be closer, ask God to be closer to your family, like it's examples of things you may ask, to be closer to your family. And then you realize there was a death in the family, but because there was a death in the family, it did bring you closer to the family, to your family. So it may be a traumatic event, but it did get the end result. And by the way, ever since then, I'm scared to ask God for anything because it's like I'm gonna ask for patience and then I'm gonna get some crazy, shit to get the patience. But when you think about it, it's true. It's like what I tell you, for every death, there's a birth. Like, your mom may die, but your sister has a kid and then they make you the godparent and then that child in the family becomes your like it's always light and I guess darkness and light. And I guess life is, if you don't experience the darkness, you won't recognize the joy, the light. If you don't experience the darkness, you won't experience the light. Or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, Miss Philosopher.
Yes, that's me. Um, so I guess to address your trauma, you need to be aware first. The first step to healing is awareness. It's like the 12-step program. The first step is to admit that you have a problem. Then you have to learn to regulate your emotions and then seek connection and support. So I guess support can be, like going to a therapist, talking to a friend, like go to a group, or like there's so many, I think, ways today that you can find help for that. Um so some of the stuff that has worked for us is more holistic stuff. So every full moon is for releasing, new moons is for manifesting, right? So every full moon I do this cord cutting and I make Chris do it with me now. We don't do it every full moon, but I try to do it as much as possible. It's shadow work and cord cutting. So I get it from Christiani or something. He has like millions of followers on YouTube. And when I first did the cord cutting from him, his cord cutting ritual, I thought it was some cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I was like, I watched it. I was like, this thing is just going to be stupid. How am I really like, on the first one, I cried like so hard. And then it brought up so many emotions. And as I do them, sometimes I don't even focus on a specific issue because I believe that eventually I've done it so many months that I ran out of trauma, to clear. I feel like I've cleared all my trauma. So now the way I do it is I kind of go into it and then I don't ask for anything. I let whatever comes up, and then I've come to realize that I have so many childhood memories that comes up that I forgot about. Like maybe it's like locked somewhere. And then I guess I just cut the square. It's like, it's crazy. And his thing was like, I think starts at $8. It's like some sliding scale. So I paid 11.11 because it's a blessed number.
The donation guy?
Yeah. Some stuff you pay and then some stuff he has as donations. And then, so Chris Corsini, anyways, all the details will be in the show notes. But shadow work, cord cutting rituals are really, really, really good. And you can find this stuff for free on YouTube. Like there's great people to follow on YouTube.
Just so you guys are aware, it's not literally cutting cords. It's more of a mental guidance meditation where he tells you to talk about the thing and then you visualize like a
Letting it
comb,
go.
letting it go, and you're cutting the cord from past things. You kind of do it, but it's like a mental, like you just close your eyes and it's like cutting your cords of past things and whatever you want to let go of.
Because you're releasing that energy. That's really what it
Releasing it,
is.
yeah.
Or that painful memory like you. Then EFT tapping. I've had Chris do that too. So EFT tapping is really you're tapping into certain areas of your body. I think it's like certain, it's here, 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 go under, and then maybe, oh yeah, right here. I haven't done it in a while. But so you tap within those areas, and I think they have specific energy points in your body. And as you're tapping, usually it's easier to follow someone. You can create your own dialogue, but I usually follow someone, and you can tap for anything. You can tap for money. You can tap for anxiety. You can tap for happiness. You can literally tap for anything. So you can put EFT tapping in YouTube, and then whatever it is that you're trying to work on, and you can find someone to, like to tap for. I guess, sorry. The one I tap, mine was for money. That was the one I was using. I'll put that one in the show note, the guy that I follow for that. He's pretty good. But one thing I found with that kind of work is find someone that you connect with. Like there's so many people on YouTube, but they might be good and have great, like 1 million followers and stuff, but some of them I don't feel connected like to it, like it doesn't. So when you find someone for like those kind of stuff or even manifesting that you connect with, that's the person that's supposed to help you through that part of your journey.
It's like she recommends me certain people for like what's the monthly thing in the not numerology, the
Astrology reading.
stuff. Like certain people she says like I don't like this guy's vibe. Like I don't know. I don't connect with him.
But I swear by it.
Yeah. So
So
and some of the stuff might seem cocoa for Cocoa Puffs, honestly, guys. I get it. But you have to kind of open your mind into different things. I mean, either that or just go to traditional way, find a therapist. But this is stuff you can try at home. Sometimes it's just for free. Even if you believe it's nuts, just try it out. It's gonna help you open up. You don't know what's crazy until you try it. Yeah. All these things people talk about, but if you really do your research versus just being an outsider, and you start doing research, watch a couple of videos, you realize that there's more to it. There's some facts to it. You might see crazy people online where it's like trembling and stuff, but sometimes it could be fake. But you know what? Is their bodies releasing a certain energy for them? Everything is a personal experience, whether it's fake, real, but they're experiencing it, they're releasing it, they're getting something out of it. Whether it's fake happiness to other people, but it's your body just releasing something, whether it's you're trembling, you're crying, it's just or releasing. And it's something in there. As you said, things are just trapped inside of you. I mean, not everybody's going to be as emotional as others, crying and stuff, but you'll feel a relief sometimes by just trying something and releasing, whatever traumas you may have or fears, worries. I mean, if you have any type of trauma, even fear of money, relationships, that's something you might not think as a trauma, but this, fear of success or failure or can I ever make it? Like my life sucks in a hole, like that's a trauma. It's a trauma you're gonna keep going on because you keep believing I can never get out of this hole. I'm gonna be screwed for the rest of my life. This is just my life that I'm stuck being broke or I'm a loser. That's a trauma, and you have to really break out of that cycle to do it. And whether it's motivational videos, manifestation, or the breath work or some of the stuff she's mentioning here, like it's something that people do, and it works for some people. That's why we have to find everything is a trial and error in life. Not everything works for everybody. Like, there's Reiki she's gonna talk about, EFT tapping. It might work for me, but it might not work for you. So everything in life is a trial. It's like therapy. Some people might say therapy is a joke, but therapy's been around for like, I don't know how hundreds of, I don't know how long, honestly, but, people go to therapy for years. I think therapy is one of the weird ones, but I think therapy is just paying for a friend to listen, honestly, to me, because, all they're doing is really listening. Like people who go to therapists all the time, they're there forever. And it's like, did they even really solve anything? They're going for forever? That seems kind of strange to me. But, sometimes you need that comfort from somebody to really listen to you or hear your current problems. Maybe you don't have it at home, but it's somebody to talk to. And that's at the end of the day, whether it's God you talk to or, something else, like releasing it in some way is something to do.
Yeah, and like you said, it's free at
Yeah.
home. So it's not costing you anything to try it, and it might work. So you might as well just try it.
Yeah. And I guess to like, even with the therapist, that's like even a big step. You got to figure out, am I going to like this guy? Is he going to judge me? How much I got to pay for it
Is my
versus like,
insurance covering
is
it?
my insurance going to cover it versus like, just going on YouTube and looking up some of this stuff or how to heal. Just Google like how to heal traumas and you'll find stuff and find something that connects with you
Yeah,
for whatever your issue is, whether it's, friends or family or whatever it is, just search it. Somebody's had your issue.
that's true. I think we all have the same similar issues. It just shows up differently.
Or they have a way. Maybe they have their own way of they dealt with it, and that's what you'll find online too.
Oh, yeah.
Their personal
Yeah.
experience, you know.
Um, yeah, I guess you were mentioning Reiki healing too. So Reiki is just energy healing. And then for the people who think it's very cocoa puff, we are energetical beings, and we're made of water and of electricity. So everything is energy. You're really just releasing those cluster of energy. Trauma is just like, energy stuck, and then you just need to release it. So yeah, just give yourself some grace and work on yourself. And I think it's a lifetime journey. Like working on yourself, it's like, I think it's a part of life. You do it every day. You do the best you can. You work on things. Like Chris said, if you have an issue in your life, maybe it might be from a trauma. So you sit back, take a look at it, try to see maybe where it came, from your life, like from your childhood or at some point in your life, and then work on that, and then work the next issue, and then the next issue.
Just to throw it up quick, it is scientific, as you said, because they've actually done studies where they did like I think it was freezing water, where they did like negative vibes, cursing the water, and then they did like something nice, you're amazing, you're awesome, and the water actually retains that energy, and it shows a difference in the pattern on how energy gets absorbed. It's crazy. So
In that one. Okay, so just realize you have a problem. Um, Honestly, most of us have a problem, if not all of us. So just work on yourself. YouTube, Google University, find like somebody that you can relate to that can help you, or just seek professional help from a doctor. Um, and I think that's about it. Like just go into it with grace and just realize you're going to be okay, and it's going to help you long term. And the better you become, the better your life is going to be. So I guess you guys have found some value in that. And remember, we're going to have all the output, like a lot of resources for like the EFT tapping and stuff like that in the show notes.